If you've ever found yourself on the receiving end of some really unhelpful feedback, like you're in your head, or you should just be more present, or just relax, you know the feeling of receiving a comment that isn't necessarily directive or useful. While it may be true, you still are left with the question of, yeah, but how do I do that, or what does that mean? That's what we're going to be deciphering today. I'm bringing Andrew Bauer on for a new segment where we are going to be deciphering these ambiguous terms that get thrown around a lot in the relational space so that you can have some action orientation around these type of phrases and it doesn't end up like the episode in Schitt's Creek where David is folding in the cheese. If you haven't seen it, go watch that clip and you'll know what we're talking about. But basically, it's just an unhelpful explanation of something that should be intuitive, but you don't quite understand.
Just fold in the cheese.
If you're new to my work, my name is Courtney Shand. I'm so glad that you're here. I love helping men embody more of that confidence and self-assurance and clarity that they need to move into the dating space as the most authentic, self-assured, and self-aware version of themselves so that they can create the type of relationship that they're after. All right, let's dive in. We have a couple examples, and before we get started, I want to go ahead and invite you. I want this to be a conversational series as well. Like I said, I brought Andrew in, and I want for you to join the conversation. So feel free to put in the comments below what someone has said to you that was one of those fold in the cheese moments for you, where it's like, if I knew how to do that, I would already be doing it. That's what we're going to be diving into.
The ones I call the helpfully unhelpful. It's like, thanks. Yes, that's helpful.
Yeah. Telling someone to relax when they're feeling agitated. Not actually helpful. Yes, they need to do that, but they already know they need to do that. If they could do it, they would be. So we've got some examples today, and we're going to get to as many of these as we can. But like I said, I want for this to be a conversational series, so feel free to engage in the comments below. Without further ado, let's dive into the first one. Andrew, do you want to choose the one that we start with?
One of my favorites, which favorites is probably the wrong term for it, but one of the ones I used to get quite often was being present. And I would either be on a date or during a relationship being told that I wasn't being present with them. And I had all my attention on them, and yet I still wasn't being present. So that's a good one, I think, to start with.
Ooh, so I love that. What does being present, when you heard it at that stage of your development, what were you hearing? And what have you learned since it actually means? Because I think you do this actually really well.
How to be present.
Yes.
What I thought it meant was I wasn't being attentive, and that I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't causing a feeling for them, like it was my responsibility for their happiness, or like I was doing something wrong. And yeah, it's hard to explain more than that. It's mostly attentiveness. So for what I know now is that it's actually an awareness thing. I used to flip between looking inside myself to looking outside to the other person and oscillate backwards and forwards between them. And eventually I noticed that's actually what anxiety is, the constant backwards and forwards between monitoring what's out there, monitoring what's in here, monitoring what's out there, and this constant flip backwards and forwards. And being present for me became around being able to open up my awareness to be able to hold both at the same time. That's the first piece. The second one was actually as I'm sitting and watching both spaces, and I'll give an analogy. Actually, I'll do it now. So think of it when first learning to drive a car, how it's like worrying about if you drive stick or a manual, what am I supposed to do with the clutch, and using the accelerator or the gas, and the steering wheel, and knowing each of the different pieces within the actual car, while also monitoring everything outside of the car. So here's this traffic, there's that pedestrian, and all these different things being monitored at the same time individually. Whereas as soon as we then embody driving, there's no longer a monitoring of everything, but rather sitting in this awareness space where being able to perceive it all at the same time without it overloading us. And from there, being able to naturally navigate between it all. So that's what being present is when someone, especially women, talk about it, because they have a visceral experience when there's a being in the moment base. It opens them up. and you could probably talk more to that in a sec as well. But it's that awareness of being able to open it up to be able to perceive the room, the people in front of me, what's going on here, while what's also around, and also what's happening inside me at the same time. Could probably go into dancing as an analogy as well, but that's probably a good place to let you chime in.
I love that, because the experience of being on the other side, when I teach this to women, I always talk about it kind of like those like satellite dishes, where depending on where it's pointing, it's going to be picking up on different information. If everything is pointing outward, you're going to be picking up on all the data points that are outside of you. Or if it's all pointing inward, it's going to be, like you always say, putting a microphone next to the speaker, where it's just like reverb and everything is too loud to actually be helpful. What we want is to have that ability to oscillate between internal focus and external focus, or external focus while we're internally focused as well. It's that piece of being able to shift fluidly between the two. And I love that we distinguish too between the feminine experience of what presence looks like and means for her, and what it is actually like as the masculine to provide presence, because emotional presence automatically allows the feminine to go more inward. And when she is able to go more inward, trusting that you are containing this space around her, you're providing this emotional bubble around the two of you for the moment, it allows her to have this really juicy experience of being totally internal and kind of like digging into the deeper emotional element and bringing that forward. And what that looks like in practice is animating her whole body, her whole facial expression, her the way that her body is moving is going to be more fluid, more animated, more real time. Feedback of what she's experiencing internally is going to be visible on the external representation. And it's also allowing her to dig into some of those deeper emotional elements and bring them to you in a way that feels really clean and actionable. I can tell when a man is able to be really present and I get to go in and do the excavating that I'm needing. I can bring that emotion, just the raw emotion, to him in a way that I would otherwise be kind of it's the difference between multitasking and being able to focus on one thing and do it excellently, as opposed to being like scattered in multiple things at the same time. That's what it feels like as the feminine, to have someone who is emotionally present. It is providing a space where I get to just focus on this one thing at a time and bring forward the thing that I think men are actually wanting from the feminine, is that feminine expression, the life energy, the expressiveness, the bubbliness, the playfulness,
the effervescence, sorry.
The effervescence that is fun to be across from.
Yeah, because we were talking about this before the actual recording, around the difference between presence for the feminine and the woman versus presence for the masculine and for the man. And this is where safety comes into it for the woman as well. So because a woman has diffused focus, and this is something that Alison Armstrong talks about as diffused focus versus hyperfocus or singular, which is what the man does. And you've got the difference, say, between a flashlight or a torch versus a lantern. And the lantern is more like the feminine one, where it's seeing all things but not at high focus, in comparison to the flashlight or the torch, which is what we call it in Australia, where it's pointed in one direction and having to move it around. The interesting thing with a torch is that you can then turn it in and out to broaden that light or bring it in even more hyperfocus. And this is where we're talking about, with presence comes, where do we need to set that alignment of the torch in order to go further out or in. And this is where driving is probably a really good one, because majority of people do know how to drive, is that when we're driving, there's an awareness of what's going on around the car and still being able to be in the conversation in the car. And that's where we've taken that flashlight or the torch and gone a bit further out and broader so that we can just go along. Now, if there's a need where we have to be even more focused because something is happening on the road, we can then pull straight in and be hyper focused. And if it's a momentary thing, women tend to be okay with that. It's like, oh, okay, he's actually holding a space of safety. He's making sure that we're not being hurt, and I'm actually okay. And then she allows herself and adjusts herself within that, so that we can navigate what we're doing and get back on. Now, if we don't come back from hyperfocus and just stay hyper-focused all the time and vigilant to, even though there's nothing unsafe, she starts to feel unsafe because it's almost like an unconscious empathetic piece where she's picking up our unsafety and now feeling unsafe herself. And this is where being present comes in. If we're too hyper-focused without having a reason or a cause, then she's feeling different things in her body that doesn't match the situational circumstances. And then it's like having to pull herself back in order to be calm and confident in her own self and self-soothe and then be self-assured. And here's all the extra work she has to now do in our presence. And hence why she calls it presence and being present. It's because around us, she's having to be vigilant in order to stay within the place of calmness that she wants to come and express from. Whereas when we're able to now just relax our focus, relax our awareness and open it up so it's not just pinpoint, more into, okay, being in the space and feeling what's going on around, similar to with driving, noticing things, but having it so that it's not 100% of our focus, but rather, yes, our attention's there because we're navigating and having putting it over to our senses in order to allow them to give us the feedback we need in the moment, but then just being able to be a part of the conversation and keep that awareness moving around. That's presence is what I've found. And the more that I've been able to practice that, the more that it's allowed me to drop into that on a regular basis. And as a synthesizer and executional man myself, I used to be so hyper-focused that I wasn't aware of social dynamics and couldn't pick up social dynamics because of that hyper-focus, because I was trying to be what people told me to be. The more that I was able to open up that aperture of my mind and be more within the actual environment and the situation and self-regulate. So being okay with other people not being okay is a good one. Allowed me to actually start to witness and see the social dynamics and be able to get my own interpretations of them so that I could actually be with them.
This is kind of bringing up a question for me of what started to shift when you started practicing that. How did people around you respond differently that let you know that, oh, something has shifted?
I noticed more in myself before I noticed in others, probably both at the same time maybe. What I was noticing is starting to recognize where either certain things were happening outside of myself or more to the point, certain sensations I was feeling, I was associating a meaning to it. And what I had to give up was maybe that meaning is not what this sensation or that dynamic means. And being able to then use that sit back within myself piece and just sit with it. It was uncomfortable because my body and my nervous system automatically wanted to run to this meaning all the time, and being able to go, okay, maybe it doesn't mean that. I've gone down that path many times and it comes out negatively. So what if I'm pre-assuming some sort of end result and meaning and causing it to head that way based on my assumption? So being able to let go and go, okay, let's just see this feeling through all the way to the end without jumping to a conclusion. That's when I started to notice the differences and people wanting to engage more with me. It was subtle to start with, but over time it became other people were interested in what I had to say and how I perceive stuff.
It sounds like there's an element of self-soothing for you that happened where you were able to like calm the storm a little bit and open up the space for multiple endings of that story to happen.
I'd say that self-soothing is a very feminine thing.
Okay.
Self-assurance is where I started with that ended up being self-soothing.
Okay.
So I think this is something you and I briefly chatted about before as well, where women tend to self-soothe to get to self-assurance. Well, at least for myself and other men I've spoken to, we tend to self-assure to self-soothe. And looking at it going, okay, if I'm seeking validation, if I'm constantly looking outside myself for my sense of self, then I'm not self-assured. And I'm a big believer in principles over values. I don't have a problem with values, I quite like them, but I believe that values aren't something that you can actually do, they're something that you be, which means that's, what's the word I use? Emergent. So I need to find something that I can do to a standard that it emerges. So for instance, confidence is something other people perceive about me. So for me to be confident, then what it actually means is that I just need to be self-assured. So then I look for, well, what are the principles that I apply on a regular basis so that I am assuring myself of the situation, the deeper essences, and the man I want to be. And then in those moments, I'm not having to seek validation outside of myself. I may seek clarity based on what other people experience and what's going on. But I just assure myself from there and make a decision and do what I believe is the right thing to do. And willing to take the consequences regardless.
I love the distinction between the feminine language and the masculine language, because language is important. And while the end result may be on a felt sense similar, the action or how you get there can be different.
Very much so. And I'll have to admit it was a lot harder when we came together, because when we first met and was exploring the possibility of life partnership, I was in Australia while you were over here, because we're both in the US at the moment, and having to constantly self-assure myself around what am I doing, what am I bringing. The conversations we were having around life partnership being about sharing a life meant that I had to be very solid in that as we were exploring this, and that was challenging, but it worked.
Interesting. I didn't perceive that was challenging for you, because you were very solid in it. You were creating a space where I got to have some room to explore, which felt really expansive.
Yeah, I had to, I don't know if you got the same saying over here, but I had to eat my own dog food. Practice what I preach.
Yeah, I don't know that we have that one, but makes sense.
Practice what we preach.
We do have practice what we preach, yeah. Which we do, so that's awesome. Is there anything else that's coming up for you as far as what being present means, what you've since learned it means in practice, or anything else that you would tell yourself a few years ago that would be helpful for him to understand about what that means when people are saying it?
There's a subtlety in this that definitely around self-assurance. And if I go back, say, somewhere between 2 and 15 years ago, there was still this constant look for, am I doing the right thing? And not wanting to upset the apple cart or cause some sort of outburst or issue as if I'm constantly the problem. So what I had to come to realize is that in my life, I have to be solid for who I am, because others are trying to work out how to interact with me and how to respond to me. So if I'm constantly looking for how to respond to them and move around, we're doing this dance around and it's not even a good dance. And this is where her experience becomes, this is too hard. And it's all because I'm trying to dance around with her, which means I'm trying to be feminine. I'm trying to be the girlfriend and cause her to be the leader and the masculine and the boyfriend. And I'm like, well, that's silly. How about I just stand still, be solid in what I want, which again is probably one of those helpfully unhelpful comments, but more to the point of what life do I want to live? And that's what I'm offering. This is what we're partnering on creating. And if this isn't right for you, then it just means that we're not compatible at that level. And seeing it as a generous opt-out. And that way I'm not making her wrong, I'm not making me wrong. It's just purely of, great, that's not the life you're up for. And if I was on a date, it then became about, all right, well, what is it that you're up for? And getting curious about it, because why not have a great conversation with someone and see if there's any other parts that she's up for that I was like, oh, I may not like everything that you're saying, but this one here is interesting, and I'll either add that to my side or she'll do the same. And therefore it was a great conversation regardless, and a smaller collaboration. So being able to just be clear for myself of what I actually want. Because when I was focusing on, I want a relationship, I want a girlfriend, I want to be married, that was an outcome. But more to the point, a very vague one. It's the, I think in IT we talk about it as being day zero, where it's like, all right, I now have that, now what afterwards? It's like the dog that's constantly chasing the cat and doesn't know what to do with it once it finally catches it. Being able to be clear of, okay, well, what happens after that? What am I actually after? What would I like that to look like? And having enough space in what I'm talking about that somebody else can come through and add more to it.
I always talk about asking the question of like, what kind of relationship do you want to be building? Not just like, I want a relationship. Okay, a lot of people want a relationship. And you always say a relationship can be with a friend. It could be with your parents. It could be with a neighbor. Like you want a partnership level. But if you don't have clarity around what that actually means, you're building to the wedding day instead of building the life beyond that.
There's also the default meaning. Like if you don't create the meaning yourself, then you have the meaning that society gives you, that your upbringing, your culture gives you, that television gives you. And none of these things are bad or good in their own right. It's just which parts of it do you like and how do you bring that together into your own meaning? And being able to feel into it at a level of going, yes, this is what I want, and it resonates with me. Another point, if you're asking me what advice would I give to my earlier forms, sometimes there's a type of fear that is like a high vibrational fear. I had to look at it and realize that was again when I was labeling it fear, it was a sensation coming up that I was misrepresenting. And that high agitation, especially around something that I want, and it's like I'm afraid to have it. What it turned out to be, and when I started to more consider it as being a whole new level of excitement that I hadn't experienced before, it gave me more freedom. Instead of saying I'm afraid, I'm fearful, and leaning back into it, being able to go, well, somewhere along the lines, this sensation, I was taught that it's not okay. And to be able to just be with it and go, maybe the sensation isn't what I think it is. And live into trial it out. So be able to go, you know what? I'm going to give this a go and say that this sensation actually means that it's a whole new level of excitement. And I'm going to give myself a week, 2 weeks, a month to just every time it comes up, be like, okay, this is a new level of excitement. What am I being excited about? What do I need to pay attention to in a uplifting way? And sit there and be with it that way.
I love that. I'm a big fan of renaming emotions or reframing them, rather. I call that one courage. Ooh, I'm feeling courage come up right now.
Or at least, at the very least, I'm being called into courage.
Yeah. For me, it's like an automatic association of like, ooh, this feels scary, which means courage is coming online.
Yeah, unexplored.
I actually love that we spent this whole time on being present, because I think that one gets used a lot. This is like when I first started this work, and you just need to love yourself was the phrase of the decade. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. Just love yourself. And whenever I would
fold the cheese in.
Exactly, just fold it in. Whenever I would search for like how to do that, they're like, you just love yourself more.
Yeah, let's define the thing based on the thing itself.
Yes, exactly. Not helpful. But the reason that it's not helpful is because then you start doing behaviors instead of actually getting to the root of the problem. Yes, you can present as more confident. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're coming as self-assured. You're just coming with more bravado, and therefore you're going to be putting on this facade that's actually going to get you the opposite experience of what you're hoping for. Because people are not going to be able to connect with that version of you, and if they do, you're not going to leave feeling seen. You're going to leave feeling like you just had to wear a mask for the hour, and by the time you get home and you're able to like relax, you feel more lonely than before.
That sounds like my pet peeve of disruptive innovation and labeling it that way instead of market redefining innovation, because then people end up just being disruptive and associating it as being innovative.
Exactly.
But yeah, coming back to the being present one, I'd like to hear more about the feminine version of being present. Like going from having to constantly monitor both inside and outside at the same time, which from a masculine perspective, I'm going to talk in the personal, when I sit here and be able to have my torch, my flashlight, go out wide enough to be able to perceive myself, my immediate environment, what's going on around me, and to be able to bring my awareness between them as and when it's needed. What's the experience of the feminine one when that's there versus when it's not? So what does feminine presence look like in that realm?
So what does it feel like to be across from a man who's present?
Yes, and what does it feel like when he's not there? When he's not being present? And also, what does it feel like when you're on your own?
Yeah. To learn to be present on your own as a woman is a skill that I teach women, because it is a skill that she needs to have. She needs to be able to ground herself, to go within and explore her own emotional world and landscape, to really get some clarity walking around that terrain and excavating the things that are necessary for her to understand about herself so that she puts herself in compatible situations. Being able to do that looks a little bit different because it means that she needs to have some form of safety externally that allows her to feel safe enough to go in, and usually that is with another person present, or to do some deep introspective work. This is why I think a lot of women are drawn to personal development spaces, to group spaces. There are a lot of women in group containers because that kind of like social containment piece is part of the feminine's development process. She has to feel contained enough in order to drop in and really do that inner work. And so for her to experience it means that she's going to be more likely to replicate it on her own, or to reach out to get the extra support that she needs in order to replicate that so that she can start to build that muscle. What it feels like to be on your own doing it is that you're having to both create a space and explore it, versus having a space created for you that you just get to explore. It's that same thing of multitasking versus doing something precisely. Women are known for multitasking, but it has been proven that people aren't as effective at multitasking as they would like to think that they are. So being able to like close some mental tabs on her browser and really focus on one thing at a time actually allows her to go deeper into that experience and cultivate the emotional language and ability to bring someone into that space. It allows for deeper intimacy and more relaxation in the feminine body, in the feminine heart space, to allow a softening experience. So when she's on her own, there is probably going to be a little element of masculine, I'm going to say guardedness, in that she is holding and guarding herself. When a man is able to extend presence beyond himself and include her, it feels like she gets to let down that shield a little bit more and trust and really like lean on the sturdiness that he is providing. And that's what allows her to really drop in and feel the emotions that she has been. They're often like right under the surface of where she can get to on her own. And I think this is why a lot of women are desiring that level of intimacy and are craving that type of connection, and can find it in a large enough group of other women. But there is something that the masculine provides that is unique in that way.
Ooh, I know how to define this now. Having a reference point for meaning, and one that is in alignment with what's being desired and intended. So this is a much deeper realms of perception and transformation, because people talk about mindset, they talk about paradigms, and these are all well and good. But what's beneath all of those that doesn't really, I've never seen been spoken about, and I actually end up coining a term just to be able to talk about it. There's a deeper reference point that we derive meaning from, and it's a principle. And when we find a principle that is in alignment where we feel solid and centered based on that principle, and then we sit on that and are able to, from there, it's like our perception awareness goes all the way out and is automatically big enough to contain a bunch of things. The term I coined was deoxyposition. So it's the position that we derive meaning from, the reference point. And as a man, when I hold that and are able to hold it in a way that it includes multiple people and what's going on, that's the safe space. And containment was another word that used to bug the crap out of me until I realized that's what it was. That it's holding a meaning but not as in a tight grasp, as if I'm having to force everybody in alignment with it, rather similar to how you'd feed a bird, where it's sitting here and I'm just holding it here. The bird will come to it or not. So having that within myself, and then she's able to be in that space and allow whatever emotions or feelings to come up and to bubble around them. And this would be the difference, say, between a woman pottering versus running around and trying to get everything done. And pottering is where she has a bunch of things she needs to do and she just flows between them all, naturally going with it. And the difference between that and when she's stressed is usually because she's got some sort of tight deadline and everything in the room is screaming at her because of that diffused awareness, where these are all the things that need to be done and I don't have all the time in the world to do them. And it's hard to do the singular focus piece. And she has to force herself into singular focus, which then means she's being masculine, which then means she's not showing up how you want her to. So being able to hold that reference point, the whole relationship and your life is based around, will attract in the types of people that want to be there with you. And that way you're able to be comfortable in that environment, knowing that you've got this to sit on and to play with, and there's going to be people that like that element and want to be around you more because of who you are with that principle and the meanings that you're deriving from that principle and your play with that point. It's like an edge to play with that will attract more people, especially a woman that wants to be more around it with you. And when she then comes into that, you being able to recognize what's needed to continue to maintain that, and you work together to maintain that space together. And this is what allows her to feel safe.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of answers the question of what it feels like to not have it, because to not have it means that I'm having to hold myself and direct myself and try to be feminine, which is the experience that I prefer to have as the feminine partner. So if you're experiencing on dates where she's coming back to you with feedback like, I couldn't really feel you, or I'm not feeling this, the odds are really good that, and again, everyone's different, so I don't want to just generalize this, but I would say that that's a common language that gets overlaid over the experience of her not being able to just relax into the feelings that she would like to have, which one of them, again, is to be calm and relaxed and supported in her feminine expression. The only way, presence. Yeah, and the only way to do that is for you to be holding enough presence for her to let that soften her nervous system into the moment.
Yeah, and what you're doing to cause that environment is being hyper-focused on a goal, as if I get everything right and be perfect, so perfectionism, if I get everything right, then this will happen, that will happen, that will happen. Whereas the difference is I'm already know I'm good because of the life that I live, and I don't need anyone to rescue me from my life. I want someone to come and play with me. I don't need them to come and get me out of the hellhole of my life. And that's something I had to really look at, is that I didn't like my life and was basically being a damsel in distress, and had to own that and go, okay, well, maybe I should just do something about it. And instead of sitting there and constantly dumping it on other people's plates, which can show up in many different ways. I've seen people do it where they think they're participating, engaging by talking or comments or something like that, even on public forums, but they're not actually owning it and being able to go, what do I need to do different? And asking curious questions. So the more I started to do that and start to go, all right, how do I just have a better life? Meant that when I'm with another person, it no longer became about who do I need to be for them to pick me, rather be able to go, all right, well, I've got my life, they got their life. Is there a match between them? And how do we vet each other that way? And it just has a very different feel about it.
I just want to clarify, when you say what you're doing to create that experience, it is the experience of her feeling like she can't exhale around you.
Yeah.
It feels like, does he have me? Does he have that is there an us in his mind, or is it just about him and I'm just a separate entity that that he's wanting this feminine expression from, and I can't get what I need to provide that in the we space of the relationship.
Yeah, it's not as if I'm at fault and doing something wrong, but rather this is what I'm doing to participate in creating that experience for her. And therefore, this is what I can now do in order to participate in a different experience potentially coming around. And while I'm hyper-focused on a relationship and being able to go, I need a relationship, I need her to pick me, and it's all about hyper-focus on the other person, it's from a level that's at the exclusion of myself. It's like I have to watch her and move myself around to be perfect in comparison to just sitting still and being able to go, great, I love my life and I want somebody else in it. And therefore, I will open it up. And like the feeding the bird, I'm not sitting there trying to go like this to birds, but rather be able to go, all right, it's here, and the bird will come and start to eat it, and great. I'll eat. Probably where the term women as birds come from, but more in point with a woman, it then became, all right, here's who I am. I have no questions about that. I have no doubts about it because I've taken the time to do the things that I love doing and to develop what I need to feel confident in myself by being self-assured. Again, borderline edges when I use the word confidence, but how do I become self-assured? How do I become clear that I love living the life I have and I want to share it with someone instead of them coming in to rescue me from my terrible experience?
I love that because when I talk on this channel about having more confidence and clarity to show up in the dating space, this is what it means. The confidence comes from the clarity about yourself, not just of general observations of I like the color blue and I like my eggs scrambled, but this deeper essence of this is what lights me up in my life. These are the people that I enjoy investing in. This is the type of work that I feel passionate about. It's these deeper questions, even beyond those things. Those are still kind of surface level. But once those start clicking in place, you have the clarity about yourself to start inviting the right people into. And that's when we can talk about the compatibility piece. We'll have to do a whole other segment on that one.
And before we finish up on being present, I'm aware that there's almost a hidden, but how do you do that piece? And because I'm out of what I've seen within the community and even within myself when I came into the community, there's very much I've already been going to personal development, I've developed all these skills and it's still not working. What is the difference? And the difference comes down into, again, I'm going to use a term that's going to sound abstract to some people and tangible to others, attunement and embodiment. And it's getting aware of our internal sensory mechanism. Because especially as men, our biggest thing that we offer is making sense of things. So being able to distill it down into a way that it makes sense and being able to then present that to ourselves and to others so that it either makes sense at different levels depending on our own depth and intensity styles and type of life that we're after. But also being able to get it to a point of resonance where it's like, that feels right. So that's the deeper attunement and embodiment work. And this is why we developed the Rebrand together, because a lot of the work is around being able to understand how your sensory works, your perception style and type, so that you can actually start to work with it instead of against it. And that will then allow for the deeper embodiment, because as you start to work with those perception senses, how you perceive things from a seeing perspective, what distinctions need to be in there as well. Is there somatic work, which is in around the, what's the definition? Somatic work is about reassociating to meaning that's in alignment with your deeper thing that you're after. So if a sensation's coming up, like how we said about fear before, being able to recognize that it's not actually fear and to feel your way through into what it actually is. Because what we have is, as these senses come up, we presuppose it means this when actually it means this here. And having to go through the full sensation and being okay with not being okay in a safe environment, so that you can get the full experience. And then once you get it all, being able to see contrast and different pieces that come with it. So that's a really long explanation, but what it comes down to is that's the work to get to attunement. That's the work that helps with embodiment and brings you to embodiment, so that you can really find those deeper things that you need to have those juxtapositions or reference points that you can truly derive meaning from, that is in alignment with yourself, who you naturally are, and where it creates a different experience with people around you.
I love that. Which brings it home. You get to adjust some variables so you create a different experience around you that people naturally want to be around you.
Yeah, what's your experience of that?
Of
like when I'm in that deeper place of finding that reference point, that one that really resonates with my sense of self and being, and I just hold that as a offering, not as a this is how it is, but this is rather how it is for me. How does that come across for you?
It feels stabilizing. It feels like the keel of a ship. Like it is below the surface, but it's the thing that is holding everything in a state of deeper balance. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be some wobbling on the surface level, which is where I'm seeing it. But it does mean that when we get to it, it does offer this like stable way to move forward, that I get to then kind of just relax and ride the wobbles or the waves that are happening on the surface for me in those moments.
So it's the feeling of consistency across it all, and whatever comes, like the waves of life, you're having a feeling of solidness because of the keel of the ship, the hull of the ship, being solid and attuned to buoyancy, that it's actually carving through. And then you can trust that, okay, as these waves are coming along, it's not going to tip the ship over because it's been designed to handle that type of feeling. Okay.
Yeah. Like I would trust a cruise ship. I would, I don't worry that that the waves are gonna overtake it. It is just like, I get to just relax and play and do whatever I'm here to do. So I think I appreciate the depth that you offer in presence in that way, because when going back to what the feminine experience is on my own, that is something that I was having to do for myself. I would have that reflection from friends of like, oh, you're so calming, you're so stabilizing. And it was because I was having to do this like feeling for myself. So to have someone that is able to do that even more purposely for me to relax into is a really pleasant experience. And I think that a lot of women who are more focused on personal development, in their own feminine development and journey, are looking for that. And for a lot of the men who have already come into the rebrand, what I'm observing is this permission to be more of that is actually what is going to create the life experience that you're looking for with a woman, because she's looking for that. Not something that you have to perform. It's just truly like letting yourself do the thing that you're naturally good at is what she's wanting more of.
And learning how to use your senses so that you can do the thing you're naturally good at. Because how you've been taught to be and to perceive is actually against your natural senses, which is why you're not getting the results you're after. And for the people that take analogies to the literal and the extreme around, but some cruise ships get hit and all that. Well, that's where the analogy is. This isn't a cruise ship, this is life. And sure, things come through and hit us, but then being able to use those principles to recenter ourselves and to weather the storm. And everything may turn to absolute crap, but then being able to go, all right, now how do I dig myself back out of this? We can't control everything, but we can control how we show up and what type of man and woman we want to be. And just hearing that, how does that add to or diminish the feeling you just said?
To know that you're going to show up as the man that you want to be.
Yeah, like if all of a sudden we get hit by something in life that's just unpredictable, couldn't control it, and we have to just weather the storm until we get to the other side of it, and then be like, okay, that was crap. Now how do we pick ourselves back up again? Coming at it with that attitude instead of saying, oh no, it's all not what I expected again, and woe to me and to us. What's the difference in feeling there? Because as I said, I was trying to go with the extremist, because that can come up with like, these things happen, and it has happened to me. It's like, well,
sure,
it's happened to me too.
Right, me too. Life is inevitably going to challenge you, and I think the ability to see it as a challenge, as something to rise to, as the feminine partner, just having that as your principle that's at play is that we can figure this out. This is something that I talk about in Rooted, is there are some key mindset pieces that are just innate to an empowered masculine energy. One of them is like, there is a solution here. Like, we can figure this out. There's a next step. I may not want to take it, but to do what you always say is like, to do what's necessary, is what will actually get you through it. And really what it feels like to be on the other side of that is like, okay, I have masculine energy too. I may need to be leveraging some of that. We may need like full force to tackle the challenge that's in front of us right now. But knowing that my teammate isn't going to go into like full, like, oh my gosh, help me.
Damsel in distress.
The damsel in distress. The feminine partner isn't looking for a damsel. You can have those moments, because that is just part of being human. And you will have those moments of like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how to get through this. But to come back to as an overarching principle that's at play of, hey, we can figure this out. There's something that we can do about this. And we need to leverage what we do have access to right now between the two of us and really start tackling it so that we can keep moving forward. To me, that is the element of partnership, is being able to leverage the strengths of each person, and when the other person doesn't have it, to rally. That we are stronger together than we are separately. Doesn't mean that we're always going to be in these unique roles that we have on maybe our best day. The worst day may require that to look a little different, but eventually it will go back to smooth sailing, and we will be able to get back to those fluid preferences of how we would like to be doing life. But in the meantime, this is where I think it's really important to be selective about compatible partnerships, because you want someone in your corner who you really can rely on to show up in the moments that you need them, not just when it is fun and smooth sailing.
So a couple of things there is that I'm seeing. So when you're talking about we're stronger together and how one or both of us may not be our 100%, this is where we're bringing 100% of what we got to offer, and then finding what's the stronger together within that. So for instance, if I'm shaky for a day or two because something's come up in my world, then being able to slow down the pace of us in order to give me the space that I need to feel through and to get through this, and then to go up again. And this is where you might say be at 90% and I'm about 40%. And being able to go, okay, I just need to not contain everything for the moment. I have to self-contain. I have to be with what's going on for me, and any support, like you being able to be with me while I'm going through something, means that then we're our 80 and 40 doesn't just equal 120%, it equals more than that because of the coming together. Or if it's just terrible for all of us and we're both at 20% each, then being able to go, all right, we just have to be gracious with each other. It's going to look like crap, and it is, again, the one we have, one of the deeper principles is us versus the challenge. I used to have it as us versus the problem, but I felt that was a presupposing constant problems, whereas us versus the challenge was a lot more empowering.
And gets to be fun. Not all challenges are
terrible.
They're fun to lean into. And I want to just reference, I think Brene Brown was the original person to propose the percentages. Yeah, percentages. And I love that when she was talking about her and her husband, where he's like, I've got 40%. She's like, I got 20%. And we're like, all right, we're just buckling down and we're going to get through this. Or when someone's like, I've got 40%, great, I've got 80. Let me just take care of these things. You go, you do what you need to do, and you tell me what you need and how we get through it. So absolutely, credit to where credit's due. The other one I wanted to point out when we were talking about damsel in distress as a energy and an archetype
is it's a feminine one. So even I've played damsel in distress a few times, and it's just basically learnt helplessness. And that's what we're calling with that. The other one is throwing a tantrum. Or in Australia we call it being stroppy. So getting all annoyed that life isn't going the way we expect it to go. And then, like a child, throwing all your toys out of the pram. Because it's like, nah, had enough. It's all too hard. Can't do it. No, I don't want to be here with this. I don't want that. No. That type of energy and archetype is the flip side of being a damsel in distress. It is basically causing such a scene that everybody else has to now adjust and move around you to try and peacekeep with you and account for more than what's worth. Instead of you just flat out saying, look, I'm not doing so well right now. Can we have a chat about what I need to be able to get through this? Instead, your learnt pattern is, no, had enough, I'm out. And that is jarring for those around you.
You're like a kid on the floor at the grocery store, just inconsolable. Yeah. You
just been more, it's not adult based, but it's more of a larger person version of it. And it seems to be socially acceptable, which is unfortunate because it really does put a lot of pressure on everyone else around you if you're throwing tantrums.
I think it's important to say that, yes, we have full-grown bodies now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the insides are matching that. And energetically, we talk about the energy of polarity a lot, the masculine, feminine energy. On an energetic level, that will be what it feels like represented in your moment of like throwing your hands up and not wanting to deal with something or having this major sense of overwhelm. It will feel like to the other person the equivalent of needing to console a child on the floor at the grocery store who's just having a major meltdown kind of moment.
Well, it's either that or coming across as a tyrant, because that's what gangsters use in order to, if you have a look at the dynamics of mobs and gangsters, one of the ways that the leader at the top stays the leader is going absolutely crazy at someone because it's not going their way, and everybody else goes into shock factor and then just takes it all and handles it all so that person doesn't have to handle it, and it's a way of control. So when you go to the extreme of throwing tantrums, then you're being a tyrant.
Let's bring it back to emotional presence. So we talked about where emotional
yeah,
presence...
that was extreme.
When emotional presence is not online, when it is online, what the feminine experience is like for both of those, what it actually means from the masculine perspective of providing presence or being present emotionally and making that a little bit more actionable. Is there anything else, now that we've kind of come full circle, that we want to...
Well, if we regroup on it, so masculine presence actually has a broadening one. Even though we talk about having singular focus, it is actually a broadening one that holds a space. That's what containment is. Being able to hold your awareness and a space within that awareness to be able to navigate and move. That's masculine presence. Feminine presence is being able to flow within that. So this is why we have both. Now, as a man, holding that contained space is similar to driving the car, where we set our awareness to a certain level that allows our senses to automatically handle a large portion of things and to monitor the space around us while we're participating within this moment. So for instance, if we're driving a car and somebody's with us and talking, we can stay a part of the conversation while we're driving and having a larger awareness to facilitate that coming around. So it's the partial diffusion of the flashlight or the torch that allows us to see a broader piece while not losing the brightness needed in order to see what's going on. And that's the masculine one, whereas the feminine one then is either being able to be with what's going in the moment here or internal, knowing that there's a safety built around for us. So the difference between them. Obviously there's usually coming back to, well, how do I hold it for myself? If you can't, well then that's where different courses and personal development's involved. And sorry, Courtney's cats decided to jump on us. But yeah, back to summarising Wefu.
Yeah. if that's something that you want some extra support with, the way that I always explain it is it's difficult to know what you're trying to create unless you've experienced it yourself. And there is no way that you would have experienced it if that hasn't already been in your experience. So it is asking for and really taking ownership of, hey, this wasn't an experience that I've had or isn't something that I can recreate on my own. Can I get some support with this? That's where having a coach or a therapist or a trusted mentor in that way to help you get a felt sense of what it is that you're aiming for. From there, I find that men actually naturally know how to do this. It really is, once it's been modeled to them, they have this innate way of stepping into it and being able to provide it to the people around them.
Yeah, it's recalibration. Attunement is recalibration. That's a good definition for you. Being able to recalibrate to what works for yourself, to be able to bring an experience around for yourself and others, which is what you're up for. That's attunement.
Yeah, so the skill is being able to be present, having the ability to contain yourself and the space around you, and that is something that we teach inside of the Rebrand. So if it's something that you want some support in gaining that skill set or really mastering that skill set, Andrew's a really great one to talk to about that. You can have a discovery call with both of us or either of us and really get clear on what it is that you're needing to step into that space of being present and secure and self-assured within yourself and inviting the people around you into this life that you're learning to love leading.
And for this segment, because we're testing this out, we do have our other ones here around what are the folding in the cheese moments, which is you're in your head. Just love yourself. That was a good one. Feel your feelings. And you're being too sensitive. So each of these we're going to unpack in one of these segments, but we also want to know what are the ones that you've heard of before that you'd like us to unpack as well and explore. And what has been your experience when someone has said, be present? What are you aware of now based on our conversation? Or what questions do you have to help understand this further for yourself?
Ooh, great call out. All right. Well, as always, I hope this was helpful. We'll see you guys next week. Let us know in the comments your experience with this content, and we will be back.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.